You're not going to sit?
No.
Bother you if I sit here?
No, sir.
This is where I used to sit.
I know, and I feel bad taking your seat. Or taking your place.
Well, I was there. I told you I would be. You can tell what you like. I don't know. Who's in charge of it? Who's in charge of it?
Peter.
Peter?
That's what I heard this morning. I'll catch you after. Okay.
Thank you. Be seated. Mr. Joy and Mr. Tillman send their regards from beautiful Cleveland, Ohio today on their vacation. A couple announcements before we introduce today's speaker. Anyone 2002 varsity football candidates, current 9th, 10th, and 11th graders, meet down front very briefly after assembly. A reminder that the father-son dinner is tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Coat and tie, with as many people as possible to attend. Be a great speaker. It'll be a nice event. Hope all of you will come. Charlie Nelson is going to come make a presentation about basketball.
A couple of weeks ago, the basketball team played in the region championship against Father Ryan, and we lost that game. But we got second place in the region, and we got this plaque. So I'd like to present this to Mr. Thurman in the school. And then this past Saturday night, we played, and we played a great game. Akeem Turner made a nice shot with about 2 seconds to go to send the game into overtime, which we eventually won, beating Lausanne, and now we're in the Final Four, going to Murfreesboro, and we're going to play not this Thursday, but next Thursday. Hopefully a bunch of y'all can come. So, thank you.
If you remember the announcements about the speaking competition for 9th through 12th grades, if you're interested in that, there are going to be videos in the library at the main desk. You can get to look and see what's required of those things and gather some ideas and information on that event. In the library from Ms. Tilley. Our speaker today is Mr. Y.S. Chi. Y.S. was born in Korea in 1961, a graduate of Princeton University, received a BA in economics. He received his MBA in finance from Columbia University. He spent eight years with American Express International Bank in the U.S., France, and Singapore. In 1992, he joined Ingram Micro, the world's largest distributor of computer products. He supervised Ingram Micro Europe from their first warehouse to a company with $2 billion in revenues. He later founded and led Ingram Micro Asian business. In 1966, he joined Ingram Book Group as Chief Operating Officer. He founded Lightning Source Incorporated, industry's first print-on-demand distributor and e-book delivery service company. In January of 2001, he joined Random House as Chief Operating Officer of Random House North America. In November of 2001, he was appointed Chairman of Random House Asia. He's responsible for the company's expansion into Asia. Our host for this interview is Mr. Lee Barfield, who will soon be on many TV talk show hosts if he keeps up his profession. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Y.S. Chi.
Can you hear me all right, everybody? No? Can you hear me now? You can hear me now. All right, I don't know what to do. All right, I'll hold this thing. Welcome to our second program third program in character, choices, and leadership. This is a little idea that Alan Usby, Vice President of Ethics and Compliance at HCA, you all know him because he was here with Dr. Friss last time. And Mr. Joy and I thought it might be fun for the students here to meet some interesting people and to learn a little bit about how they've made decisions in their lives. Decisions about vocation, family decisions, school decisions, and other things. And we are very fortunate today to have Y.S. Chi with us. And I think you will have an opportunity this morning to get to know Y.S. a little better. A couple of ground rules for our program this morning. This program will only be successful to the extent that you students and faculty, do you dare, participate in the program. And we have 2 microphones there and there set up for you. And so I encourage you to get up to the microphone. Mr. Chi and I'll be looking for you, and we will recognize you, and we'll go back and forth and hopefully answer whatever questions you have for Mr. Chi. Y.S. is a great friend of MBA and serves on the MBA Advisory Council. And Y.S., I thought we might get started here, and I'll fire the first question. Tell us a little bit about how you came to know MBA and what your relationships are with MBA.
I guess I want to thank MBA for having me here. When Brad Joy first asked me to be part of this series, I told him that I don't think I qualify to be here. Unlike the others who are speaking in front of you, I'm still a work in progress. Going to your question, Lee, I first got to know MBA through a graduate of MBA, class of 1979, who became my best friend at Princeton. His name is John Ingram, and the Ingram family that I've gotten to know for the past 20-some years. It's funny because I still have an MBA sweatpants, one of those gray athletic sweatpants that says MBA right here. And people used to think that that was from my Master of Business Administration. And nobody really knows what that stands for. When we moved our family to Nashville some 6 years ago to be part of Ingram Book Group, I ran into Brad Joya as co-parents, I guess, having children in the same school, and got to really respect the school for what it does in terms of giving boys an education that is of top quality without having to go away from Nashville into a boarding school environment. I've since then gotten involved with the school in terms of recruiting for college. Some of you may have siblings who see me come on campus and try to talk and convince them to go to Princeton or to even at least apply. And been part of things like father-son dinners, trying to invite some speakers for those events. And I've been really impressed with the passion with which people who are involved with this school run this place. That means alumni, the board, faculty more than anybody else. So I'm privileged to be here.
Now, Y.S., one of the things that Y.S. does that I kind of experienced firsthand because my son was a student here a few years ago and got to know Y.S. because he showed up for one of these interviews about college. And since many of you, are any of you planning to go to college? You wouldn't tell it. I hope you are, for goodness sake. At least there's one over here. But Y.S., tell us a little bit about what do you look for and how should students go about making decisions about college choices?
Let me start out by saying that you live in a country, you're very lucky to be in America, where you could go to any of the top 50, maybe even more colleges who would give you a top education. So, despite all the pressure you get from your parents and peers, and even faculty members and advisors about going to these famous named colleges, you just need to find the right school for you. It's nice to say that you're a graduate of this school or that school, but at the end of it, if you don't go there for 4 years, probably the most important part of your life that shapes your character, and you don't enjoy because you don't have the right friends, you don't have the right activities, right environment, then you wasted your 4 years. And having a piece of paper that says you're from an XYZ college isn't going to get you terribly excited about that part of your life. And you'll always be trying to run away from that part of your history. So in choosing college, I would emphasize finding a place where you think you will meet roommates and classmates that will be your friends for life. Now you've experienced some of that already here at MBA, because MBA is a mini college, a day college in a way. And you make friends here that will be your best friends for the rest of your life. And imagine trying to find another 4 years of it with a significantly heightened level of competition, intensity of relationships and whatnot. And that's what college is. And also college to me is 4 years when you can make mistakes and get away with it. Because once you leave college, you go into the real world, you start making mistakes, they start costing you a lot. And in college, you can get away with most everything. And if you're going to get away with it, you might as well do it in college. Now I'm not talking about breaking laws. I'm not talking about getting so blitz drunk after a party and having to be moved to a hospital and get resuscitated. That's outright silly. That's just outright silly. But if you want to try something and you're not sure that's what you want to do for the rest of your life, it is a place to try. Because you can always turn your back and go in another direction. And that goes for academics, extracurricular activities, kind of friends you make. College is a place you make a mistake and get away with it. So find a place, in my opinion, finding a place that gives you that environment and lets you explore things, regardless of the reputation of the school. I think that's more important than going to somehow U.S. News and World Report ranking of the school.
What about your experience, Wyatt, at prep school, at high school? Tell us a little bit about where you went to school, how you got there, and a little bit about maybe the fears that you had. Wyatt had an interesting experience in high school.
That could be a longer answer, but I'll try to tell the story. I lived in Africa when I was 9th grade. I went to French-speaking school, and school stopped after 9th grade. So I had to make a choice of where to go on for high school education. I could either go back to Korea, which is where I'm from, and take the god-awful college entrance exam, which some of you may know about, but it's just awful. Or continue my French education by going to France, or come to America and go to boarding school. At the time I wanted to be an engineer, and I knew that America had the best engineering colleges. So choice was made to apply. I applied to a dozen boarding schools. I got rejected by all of them except for 2. One because my brother was going there, so that was sort of a legacy admission. And the other one was a small school in Lawrenceville, New Jersey, called the Lawrenceville School, which was at the time an all-boys boarding and day school. To this date, I don't know why they admitted me. Because my SSAT score was equivalent to a 0. All of you, I don't know if you have taken SSAT test, not SAT. It scores between 250 and 350. And if you write your name down, you get 250. If you write your name down and get one answer right, you get 251, and that was my score. So it's no wonder that all the other schools like Exeter and Andover rejected me, but somehow Lawrenceville decided to take a chance on me. Granted, I didn't speak much English when I took the test. Minor detail. But I came to America with a great hope that I was going to get ready for this fascinating, fabulous engineering college experience. And I was truly, truly miserable. I didn't fit in. I didn't know what America was like. And I didn't know what it would be like to go to a prep school full of rich kids that had never had no said to them all their lives. And too much time with which they didn't know what to do. And this was at a time when there's plenty of drugs and alcohol on campus. And I was very miserable. At the end of my first year as a 10th grader, I had packed my stuff and I told my dad that I was ready to go back to Korea and I'd rather do the god-awful infantry in Korea than to stay. I had a wonderful friend who convinced me otherwise over a 6-hour conversation, convinced me to keep all of my belongings at his house over the summer, and if I was still sure at the end of the summer that he would ship it to me. I came back, and Lawrenceville changed my perspective ever since. I guess more than anything else, it was a place that allowed me to do what I wanted to do without being too regimented about what I had to do. And at the same time, it was a small family, much like the MBA environment where you feel like you're in a community. And I am now terribly grateful for not going back after 10th grade. I didn't fit in. I was not a jock. Do I look like a jock at 5'7", 132 pounds? And athletics was very important at Lawrenceville too. And after that experience of being sort of blackballed out for the first year for not speaking English well and not being a jock and whatnot, the school actually came around and embraced me rather well. And the next 2 years was quite special. Some of you out there might feel that way too. My dad just wouldn't let me quit. And I'm glad he didn't let me quit, because my life changed since then. All the rest of what followed happened because I finished my high school at Lawrenceville.
Now, you remember, you get a chance to participate in this as well. I don't see anybody at the microphone. If you've got any questions, please hustle up there because time's running short. YS, after Lawrenceville, you went to Princeton University. And at Princeton University, you had really a incredible, kind of life-changing experience because you suffered from an illness that sidelined you for a while. Tell us a little bit about that experience and how that's impacted your life.
In my senior year, at Princeton, one is required to write a thesis to graduate, and it's a big deal. Right after the second semester started, I collapsed at dinner, and I was found paralyzed in the left half of my body. They couldn't figure out what it was. They sent me to the infirmary, and then to Princeton Medical Center, and then to Robert Johnson Hospital in New Brunswick, and finally to Cornell University New York Hospital. And they thought it was brain tumor. They found a cyst in my brain, all that. For 4.5 weeks, I was in the hospital not really knowing what my fate was, and I just wanted to get done with it. I didn't have a family in America at the time, and my father, who was a public servant in the Korean government, was not contactable because of political situations back in Korea, and I was very lonely. The Ingram family was extraordinarily generous and gave me a lot of support, but the biggest support came from my classmates. Every day at 11:50, I got a call at the hospital from my classmates, and every night at 6:10, I got a call from those same classmates asking me how I was. More importantly, they went to every single one of my classes, took notes, taped the lectures, and somebody brought it up to New York every single night with a dinner because they knew how awful hospital foods are. Some hospitals, yeah. And they just wanted to make sure I got a chance to graduate. And that's how I was able to finish my classes, write my thesis, and actually graduate that spring. That's the kind of experience you can't describe unless you're there and you're on the receiving end of it. I know this community of MBA is extraordinarily close, and when there are tragedies or challenges, we come together very well. And I respect that very much. It's one of the reasons why I like the school so much. When you go through an experience like that, you start to understand the value of your friendships and human relationships, and how the choices one makes is not about what path you go for yourself, it's what path you go with whom. Whether it be a question about who your spouse is going to be, or who your friends are going to be, who your teammates will be, who your teacher will be. It's a choice you make about with whom you will walk that path. And in my case, I know I was very lucky to be surrounded by extraordinary human beings.
All right, we got a few questions. Andrew Wilson, and then we'll go over here. Will you go ahead?
Can I sort of like disqualify some of the people who are asking questions? Go ahead.
Speak right, because it's really hard for us to hear down here.
What made you choose economics and finance for your career path?
I didn't choose. I sort of fell into it. I was an engineering student at Princeton. Because when I was in high school, I did better in math and science than I did in English for obvious reasons. Even today, the fact that I'm working for the largest publisher in the world in English is unquestionable. When I was freshman year, there was a law that passed in Korea that required me to go and serve in the Army. There was one exception to that, and that was to be a graduate student before I turned 21. So I took what is called advanced standing, and I graduated from Princeton in 3 years. An engineering degree is a 5-year program crammed into 4. The dean would not allow me to cram that into 3, even if I wanted to take 6, 7 courses per semester. So I chose a major that was as close to math as possible. And economics, at the end of the day, is applied mathematics. That's all it is. And so I went into economics because I knew I could graduate with a Bachelor of Arts degree in economics and go on. If you ask my classmates from Lawrenceville at the time of graduation what they imagine I'll be doing the following several years, finance would not have been in the top 10, and certainly publishing would not have been in the top 500. So, path has taken me into some very strange directions.
Okay, you have a question over here. Speak into that mic if you breathe it.
What choices have you made in your life that you might regret or would have changed if you could have?
Oh, good question.
Agreement to come here and speak in front of you. That was just to see if you were awake. No, Benson, I've made so many mistakes in my life that I can't begin to cite all of them because you would need an encyclopedia to do that. I don't dwell on bad decisions I made. I dwell on great decisions that I've made. Because as it's written on my monitor at work, I have a monitor with a little quotation right across the top, and it says, "Errors make success more credible." And I know that the errors I've made in my life about different choices of what I do, how I do them, how much I do, with whom I do, when I do them, they were errors that made the future successes that much more valuable, more credible. I won't pick on one or two things, but I think if I were to stand here, having lived what I have lived here in the past couple of decades, and start to talk about or complain about them, I would be really a conceited fellow. Because too many things have happened that were really good. But I take errors and misjudgments as just a learning step. I don't think any of them were so bad that it has crippled me. But if I were to generally categorize the worst decisions that I've made, those were decisions about who I associate with. Those were the worst decisions I've made. I've made some friends, or I thought I was making friends with people that were bad influence on me. And I would say those are the kinds that I wouldn't want to do it again.
Well, okay, right over here. Thank you.
What do you see yourself doing in 10 years?
Oh my God. 10 years from now, I hope to be doing something so different than where I am today that I can keep up my energy and continue to be just passionate about what I do. Somebody asked me 2 nights ago who my heroes were. And I said, it's not any particular category or individual. To me, heroes are people who can keep doing the same thing for a long time and still maintain a level of energy that makes them excellent. Not just good enough, but excellent. And I know there are a lot of people in this school who have been teaching for years and years and years and still do it with incredible amount of passion and commitment. Those are my heroes. People who can be a fireman for 28 years and still take the next call as seriously as the one before and the very first one they took. And I could cite numerous examples of people like that. So part of me says, I want to be doing what I'm doing, continue to be doing, but it doesn't have to be in a specific job, like publishing. Do I see myself 10 years in publishing? No, absolutely not. But I see 10 years from now that I still will be working with people, because I think at the end of the day, that's my job. My job is to be with people that want me to be part of the leadership. And that I will be doing 10 years from now.
Yes, my question. What have you taken from your childhood and teenage years that you think still benefits you today?
I didn't hear that question well.
Good question. What have you taken from your childhood and teenage years that still benefits you today?
I grew up, I went to 14 different schools, and I lived in 14 countries, and I've had to learn 6 different languages along the way, not all of which I retain today. So the single most important thing as I was growing up that I retain today, and I would encourage all young people to do, is not to be afraid of change. Just to get used to changes. Particularly if those changes are of progressive nature. Last night we were chatting about this thing. If I had a choice between progress and tradition, I would take progress. So long as tradition is not disrespected. I grew up having to change friends every year, sometimes every 6 months. I went to different schools, had to learn new language, live in a new country. And just getting adapted to all those changes made me not be afraid of moving from banking business to computer business to book business, and maybe next will be TV business, and still find that I can do it. Have the confidence that I can do it. Does that answer your question?
Let's talk about this. You said when you first started to speak that you consider yourself something of a work still in progress. Now, the other 2 speakers we've had have sort of come, at least in the latter parts of their career, if not at the end of their career, so they've made most of the choices they'll make in their lives. But to your great credit, you seem to be the most human of the 3 we've seen so far. What I mean is that you don't drown your worries in alcohol, you don't corporatize healthcare. But something that you do definitely share in common with them, and they've admitted the same, is that you make your decisions as they come to you. They're not really by your grand designs about how you want your life to go. But do you see yourself, with your background and with the career that you have now, headed eventually towards the same kind of taint and maybe regret that they have? Or do you think you've been prepared for a life that will be maybe more meaningful than the other 2 speakers have had?
I can't imagine calling Dr. Frist or Jim's life as not being as meaningful. I would love to be in their shoes in so many ways. I have my own callings, and I have my own ambitions and my own humility about why I am here, why God sent me here to be what I'm doing today, or in my life in general. I don't want to be ever bored, and that's what's driving me every day. And if people think that I'm full of energy, it's because I hate the idea of being bored. I'm restless. I believe that there are at least 3 or 4 more things that I've set out to do when I was 20 years old. And I've set certain goals for myself. I didn't say when I was going to achieve them, but I set some goals. And several of them, I'm nowhere near them yet. One of which I speak of proudly is the fact that there's some part in my life I have to give to my government. 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, I don't know. Certainly won't be by elected process. I don't want to go through the election process. But if I had a chance to work for a great leader in the government, I would jump to it right this second. It would take one phone call and I would quit what I'm doing to do that. That's one of the remaining goals that I have. There are a little less than a handful of those goals still left in me. If I reach the age that those 2 gentlemen are today, and I look back and have done all those, I don't care who measures me, who judges me, it's irrelevant, because I would judge myself of having been extraordinarily happy and successful. September 11th, as it has affected all of you, has had a very, very deep impact in my life, because I was near enough, a couple miles away in Midtown Manhattan, saw the second plane hit, saw both buildings go down, and just hastily tried to move our 2,000 people in our building back home somehow and secure our building because we were possibly a target. And it made me think about what is really, really important. And one of them that is definitely not on that list is to be president right now. It's not that important. So I hope that if I were to be invited back to speak to this group in 10, 20 years, and I can talk about just the past 10, 20 years, if I can speak with as much optimism that I achieved the remainders of what is in my fingers, still goals and missions that I have to accomplish.
We have time, Mr. Lemon, for maybe one more question. One more question. Okay, right here.
Yeah, you told us about how important your friends were to your success, but you also mentioned your dad, how he didn't let you quit school. I was just wondering how important your family was to your success these days.
Well, if I told you it wasn't important, then you would all go home and become rebels. If I told you that it was the most important thing, you might start to ignore some of the other things in your life. No, it was very important. I left home when I was just turning 15. I just turned 15. And I grew up in a family where Dad was away most of the time because he was a government servant. And I didn't have a lot of time with my father, but I knew a lot about my father. My family is more than mom and dad, though. It's my brother and sister also. And they walked the path in front of me. And they showed a lot of lessons that I learned by living vicariously through their lives. To me, family is also a subset, or maybe the other way around. You have a lot of math teachers here who can help me out. Whichever is a subset of the other, family and friends. My family is my best friends as well. And my friends are my family. So they are interchangeable. I happen to be born into the family, but I made a choice of who my friends are going to be and who will not be my friends. They were both important, but I would say that by the number of hours I spent, clearly friends spend more hours with me than family did. Having said that, the 4 of us, plus me, 5 of us, mom, dad, my brother, and my sister, we are very close. So I don't want you to walk away thinking that somehow I make them secondary to my other friends. I just want to tell you that if you haven't had a chance to ask a question. I'd love to hear from you. Please write me an email. It's very simple. It's ys@randomhouse.com. And it would be a privilege to have dialogue with you outside of this session. Thank you.